All right, you are now welcome. You are welcome to this class. Um, um, so how are you? Maybe at least Felix, how are you? And Sheila,
I'm fine now. Fine.
how is your network?
I hope it will be okay today. Now I'm in my workstation, which is far away from the city.
I can hear you, Sheila.
Some, uh,
Sheila, how are you?
Hello, sir. I'm fine, thank you.
Hmm. Yeah, so welcome to this class. So our second session is on modernism and the ecological environment. This is our second topic. And you must know that at the modern age came with certain changes. If I may ask you, maybe before I proceed, what do you understand by modernism? What do you understand by modernism? Let me hear what you know about modernism before we continue. What do you understand by the term modernism? What do you understand by the term modernism? Anybody to attempt? Are we talking about contemporary period? If we say modernism, are we just talking about the contemporary times? Right? Let's think. Let me pick something. When we say
Okay, sir.
modernism, are we just talking? Uh-huh.
I don't know the official definition, but
Uh-huh.
what I think modernism is I think it's the change of maybe culture, yeah, and lifestyle from how it was before that to the yes,
You're saying
to adapt to
it's the change of what?
of cultures and lifestyle and way of life.
Uh-huh. The change
Yeah,
of way of life.
from how it was traditionally and initially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's from the
Change of lifestyle and culture. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Felix, when I say modernism, what do we mean?
I hope you can get me.
Yes, I can get you.
Is my understanding is maybe I'm not well conversant with it.
Not very conversant. Mm-hmm.
You can.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I've
I'm
not
saying
gotten
that.
you. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm saying that. According to my understanding, that modernism is are the new school of thought that came in. When I talk of the literary theories of uh, interpreting of the literary work. The new
Mm-hmm.
school of thought that came in after the old one. That is according to my understanding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fair try.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, when we are talking about modernism, um, we are talking about a movement, and it did not just affect literature. Modernism was a movement that arose in the 16th century in Europe. And modernism was a rejection of tradition. It was a rejection of tradition. It was a philosophy that embraced science and technology during the age of reason or enlightenment. So they rejected tradition and religion, and they said human beings will now be able to control their lives, to determine their destiny through science, through science, yeah, through science. So they really embraced rationality. They really embraced rationality, and they rejected dependency on, especially tradition and religion, or dependence on a supreme power. And basically, during this age, many philosophers theorized about the importance of rationality in determining the destiny of mankind. So that's what we mean by modernism. It is a movement. It is a historical period in which human beings really changed. They moved away from tradition, they moved away from religion, and they wanted to embrace rational thought. And it arose during the Age of Reason or Enlightenment. So writers such as Shakespeare rose during the time of during the modern age. Of course, it was during the rebirth, during the Renaissance. That's when Shakespeare arose. But later on now, around the 18th century, modernism took over. And there was a lot of inventions. Tradition was rejected. And this is important because even as we talked about, I think last time we talked about the ovum, is it the organum, the organum by Francis Bacon, and this was the age when now science was taking over from tradition, and it started marginalizing aspects of tradition and the environment. Binaries were created, and with binaries, we're talking about looking at life in the light of I and you, or the self and the other. So the self is more important than the other. So the natural environment was now marginalized. The ecological environment was marginalized during the modern age because modernity was more focused on humanity. That's why we talked about anthropocentrism. Yeah. So modernism, the way it looks at the natural environment, it does not do it the way tradition used to. Yeah, tradition used to embrace the ecological environment, and as we said last time, in traditional Africa, for example, some aspects of ecology, some ecological features, were actually seen as what? As gods, as divine. They were very much revered. But with the modern age, now that tradition and religion were otherized, were placed at the margin, the natural environment also followed suit. Yeah. So that is basically what I want to say in the introduction. So let's now move on. What are the ELOs? We'll analyze how modernist faith in technological mastery led to the conceptualization of the environment as a resource, yeah, for industrial exploitation. So the modern age now sees the environment just as a resource for industrial exploitation and human control, but not as something divine, not as the center, not as something very important. Number two, evaluate how traditional and pre-modern worldviews often incorporated philosophy of stewardship, yeah, by recognizing nature's inherent value. So traditionally, nature was seen as very valuable, yeah, and we'll look at that. And then number three, analyze ecological themes in hard times. For example, the dehumanizing effect of the industrial pollution and so on. So look at Hard Times by Charles Dickens. We see how, yeah, the homocentric ethos affected the ecological environment. Then lastly, examine how William Blake selected poems critique the industrial society by using pastoral imagery, etc. So we look at Hard Times and William Blake. These are our major writers in this particular session. And so on. So nature as the other. So according to Okwiyade 2013, there is a way in which modernism, marginalizes the ecological environment, such that it only exists as an inferior partner to human beings. So in the modern age, that's what I'm saying. We value science, we value roads, we value good houses, we value cars. So we can destroy even a forest to build a road or to build an industry. And that's why Okwede is saying that in the modern age, natural environment is at the margin, is peripheral. It is not central, it's not at the center, like in the traditional African society or in the traditional European society. A tradition, whether in Europe, in Africa, tradition naturally embraces the natural environment, but the modern age focuses so much on science and rationality. The modern age is anthropocentric. That means it values humanity more than the ecological environment. So technology and rationality, therefore, buttress the notion of anthropocentrism. So the whole question of technology, if we talk so much about technology and rationality, we are simply elevating humanity at the expense of the natural environment. So what are the tenets of anthropocentrism? So modernity is characterized by anthropocentrism, that human beings are at the center of creation. And therefore, one of the major tenets is that there is human exceptionalism, that humanity possesses unique attributes like rationality and consciousness that only humanity can think. And therefore, it is elevated above all other life forms, justifying our dominance. According to René Descartes, René Descartes talks about body dualism, which separated human beings as rational people and the non-human as irrational. So because the environment is non-human, it is therefore irrational and therefore not very important. It's irrational and not very important. And then humanity, and then there's the question of instrumental value. The natural world, that is the non-human animals and plants, are deemed to possess only instrumental value. Its worth is measured exclusively by its usefulness to humans. That you are only important if you are useful to humanity. And as long as you are not useful to humanity, you are useless. So because of this idolizing human beings, the natural environment is therefore marginalized and overexploited. Is marginalized and overexploited. So, according to Lynn White, the Judeo-Christian tradition, also buttresses anthropocentrism. For example, when you look at Genesis chapter 1:26, when it talks about man was given power to do what? To subdue the earth. That we are given power to subdue the earth. So the Christian religion and Judaism, they also buttress anthropocentrism because that we came number 7, that we were given the power to do what? To subdue the earth. And so when they quote such scriptures, then they really overexploit the natural environment. Then there is the concept of holism and tradition. So in the African cosmology, we don't just look at human activity. Holism is the belief that life focuses on many other things. That life is not just focused on human beings. So according to Mkhize 2013, everything in the African worldview is interconnected. So that is what Africans believe. For example, science is connected to religion. Religion is connected to politics. Politics is connected to art. And all these human homocentric things are also connected to nature. And so in African society, we cannot separate nature from politics, nature from religion, and nature from science. And that's what we call the concept of holism, which is very common in the African tradition. Or in the African tradition. So going by Mkhize's postulation, reality in the African sense is not limited to the respected maxims of rationality, but includes all cultural aspects such as the religion, of which nature forms a prime constituent. So in the African cosmology or in the African philosophy, life is all round. It's not enough just to have a big head. That means you are very rational, but you don't not have a heart. Yeah, that a good philosopher should also have religion. A good religious person must also respect the natural environment. Yeah. So that's what we call the concept of holism. So life is interconnected to demonstrate the deep and reciprocal dependency between humanity and nature. This session will draw upon the ideas of scholars like Guto, Simotuo, and Ondimu, using these frameworks to analyze traditional ecological knowledge embedded within the various forms of African folklore. So holism is a very important concept, particularly in the African cosmology. So another subtopic here is ecological features as embodiments of intelligence and wisdom. For example, why do they say that the hare, that the hare is very, very intelligent, yeah, in oral narratives. Look at the trickster narratives, yeah. Although the trickster figure is complex, embodying aspects of divinity, foolishness, and foresight, yeah, that is okay, poor. This section interprets the trickster as a symbol of sharp wit. The text presents a Luya trickster tale, where a clever hare thrives during a drought, while his animal neighbors face severe famine. So there's a story among the Luya that the hare, there was out of famine, but every time the hare used to have meat, the hare would have meat, and yet most animals could not get something to eat. So, so when God came to him, he asked hare, "Where are you getting all this meat from? Yeah, where are you getting all this meat?" And the hare said, "There is meat at Chebukube. There's a hill called Chebukube. If we go there, we will be able to get meat." And so God planned the journey. They had a date, and on a Saturday, God went to Chebukube. Now, when he reached there, Hare now told him, "Yeah, I will go up. I will go up the hill. Yeah, when you hear the sound, pwapwa, 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 step aside. That is not food. But when you hear the sound, dee, put your head in the way. That is the food. That is the food. Yeah, that is the food." And God decided to obey. So Hare went up, and then he pushed a very big stone, and it came down, butter, butter, butter. It came down, butter, butter, butter. And it came down, butter, 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 butter. And then he stepped aside. He stepped aside. And God stepped aside. Then Hare now looked for a sling, and threw a stone, and it came a stone, and then God stepped in the way, and the stone hit God in the head, and he fell down dead. And then Hare now flayed God, removed the skin, chopped the meat into pieces, and went back home. And he said, "These fools, I will eat all of them. I will eat all of them." And many animals came to him, and they lost their lives that way. They lost their lives that way. Yeah, until leopard was able to catch Hare, cause cause he did not close his eyes, and he saw Hare throwing a stone, by a sling, and of course he went down and pretended to be dead. He feigned death. Death, of course. And then when Hare now came and tried to flay him, he rose up and fought back. And that is how Leopard now discovered that Hare had been actually tricking and eating animals. Now, when you look at this story, yeah, why is it that, yeah, because that's the story now. You can see here throwing or rolling a huge stone, yeah, from the cliff, and goat was able to run away, yeah. So in the African context, yeah, goat represents the naivety that makes individuals vulnerable to deception, That is Nzewi, 1975. Although ecological studies show goats are quite intelligent and resourceful, yeah, their tendency toward blind obedience inherent in their status as prey is utilized in the story to illustrate the fatal cost of foolishness and the lack of independent thought. But why is it that animals are being used, yeah, to express intelligence? Animals are being used to express intelligence. Why? Yeah? Why is it that animals are being used? So the question I was asking is that why is it that animals are being used um, as symbols of wisdom? Yeah, why? This shows that in African cosmology, humanity, although the story is talking about humanity, the story is about anthropocentric themes. It embraces animals. It uses animals to express wisdom, to show that in Africa, the way Mukise says, the animal world is equally respected. The animal world is equally respected. These are wild animals and domestic animals. Leopard is a wild animal, and then goat is a domestic animal, hare is a wild animal. But you can see, yeah, they recognize, they value, yeah, they have taken time to study ecological features, i.e., wild animals. Why? To recognize the importance of animals in human life. Yeah. So when these ecological features are used in oral literature, it just shows how much the African cosmology embraces the ecological environment. That's what we are saying. Yeah, it embraces the ecological environment. So you cannot say like Buell that because it is aesthetic, that because the use of animals is aesthetic, there is nothing ecological about it. I dispute that. I dispute that. The fact that oral narratives, use ecological features like animals and hills, it just shows how much nature intertwines with humanity in the African cosmology. In the African cosmology. Yeah. In the African cosmology. Yeah. For example, now look at even the Proverbs. When you look at our Proverbs, yeah, they draw images from the local environment. Yeah. For example, Chinua Achebe says that among the Igbo, Proverbs are the palm wine with which words are eaten. That means, again, they are used to express wisdom. Much as they are conversational, use of proverbs basically shows that it is a formal session where wisdom is being inculcated in the audience. But despite all this, they use images from the local environment. Like, why is the hare never punished? Because it's wise. In the African cosmology, wisdom is valued over physical strength, even over riches. But now you will discover that when you look at these proverbs, they employ ecological features. Why? It shows how much nature intersects with humanity in the African cosmology. For example, there is one here among the Luya, Nandakambila Kakonela Homo and Akwenjoli. Yeah. The person who does not take advice walks on the elephant's track. So although the elephant typically connotes positive attributes like strength and leadership among the Luya, in this context, it represents harmful and untamed power. Harmful and untamed power. That if you don't take advice, you are going the wrong way. You are going towards destruction. So although the advice is homocentric, the elephant is being drawn in. Yeah, to do what? To show the interconnectedness between humanity and nature in the African cosmology. So, in African cosmology, the concept of holism is very important, and it comes out very clearly through oral literature. If you look at oral literature, you find a lot of that interconnectedness between humanity and the natural environment. So this wisdom is drawn from the lived experience of community members residing near Mount Elgon, where historical and ongoing human-elephant conflict has made choosing an elephant spot potentially life-threatening. The community utilizes this potent imagery to strongly advise young people that defying counsel is akin to inviting serious trouble or even death. So the advice is anthropocentric, but the images are drawn from the ecological environment. So at present, other images such as a truck or train may be used as substitutes to the elephant. Yes, yeah. And that's why we are saying, yeah, if proverbs are just homocentric the way Buell says, why not use trucks or trains? Why is the persona not saying, if you don't take advice, you are walking on the path of a train, or you are walking on a railway with an approaching train? Yeah. Why is the artist or the speaker choosing the image of the elephant? Yeah. It's because of this concept of holism. Yeah. In the African context, nature intertwines or it intersects very clearly with the ecological environment. So the choice of elephant demonstrates the essential place of ecological features, yeah, in the African cosmology or in the African thought or in the African thought. So activity 2, select your proverbs with ecological images, 4 proverbs with ecological images from the African society, and examine how African communities use ecological images to elevate the influence of the ecological environment. Present the findings to the class. So next class, you will present this before we continue. I will share these slides with you. But Sheila, you can access, and I hope, Sheila, you are signing the attendance. Ensure you go there. I've prepared attendance for you. Felix, I'm told you are they are still processing your admission number. Yeah, so, but I will share this so that next week you can present, select 4 proverbs with ecological images from an African society and examine how African communities use ecological images to elevate the influence of the ecological environment. Present the findings to the class. That's activity 2. So modernism and exploitation of the ecological environment in hard times. So you'll have to read this book. This will be a term paper. Yeah. Anybody who knows something about hard times? Anybody who knows something about hard times? This is the picture of the book. Anybody who has ever read Hard Times, you should read this book. Read some chapters. Even if you don't read everything, you will write a term paper on this. So at master's level, we need to read more books. And European literature, you also need exposure. You need to read European literature, Asian literature, African literature. You need to read American literature. So we'll make sure that we expose to you as many books as possible, even from international levels. Anybody who has read Hard Times? Anybody? Anybody who has read a book by Charles Dickens? Oliver Twist, Tale of Two Cities. This book was, I think it was published 1854? And he's talking about the challenges Europeans faced during the Industrial Revolution. This is Charles Dickens. This is the picture of Charles Dickens, one of the greatest writers from Europe. And we need to read him because these are the people who developed the novel as a genre. And we need to read some works by Charles Dickens. So Dickens' Hard Times serves as a potent critique of the 19th century industrial utilitarianism, which laid the foundation of philosophy for later modernist ecological exploitation, setting the polluted mechanized city of Corktown. The novel foregrounds an ideology driven by Thomas Gallagher in strict adherence to fact. Yeah. In fact, when it begins, yeah, he says, teach these children nothing except facts. Facts alone are wanted in life. Yeah, the teacher does not want any fancy. He does not want literature or art. For example, when a child talks about horses on a carpet, he asks, is that a fact? Yeah, is that a fact? Can horses be on a carpet? Can horses be on the floor? And Dickens uses repetition, to show, to be sarcastic. He's sarcastic, yeah, at the scientific nature of this generation. He describes the teacher as somebody with a square forehead, a square finger, a square shoulder, a square, everything is a square. That means, science is very rigid. Everything has to follow formulas. And during this age, people believed the arts were useless, yeah, that people had to be taught science and technology and nothing else. And as a result, we see a lot of pollution in Corktown, a lot of environmental pollution in Corktown. And this novel actually now shows the anthropocentric ethos that we have been talking about, that Francis Bacon tried to establish. Yeah. So, Hard Times by Charles Dickens will help us to see how modernism marginalizes the ecological environment. So the novel depicts an environment utterly subjugated to the factory system. The air is choked with soot. The river is toxic, and the very architecture, its very architecture is uniformly monotonous. The whole town, everything is just industrialized. There is nothing like art, nothing like beauty. Corktown is a very boring town. You read people like Josiah Bondaby, and you will see because of their obsession with the facts, they are not humane any longer. Thomas Gradgrind is not humane any longer, and the family cannot be well brought up because of obsession with the science and technology. Technology is good, but obsession with it leads to what we call, anthropocentric ethos or homocentric ethos, which can be disastrous to humanity. So Dickens demonstrates that this utilitarian mindset, prioritizing economic output over all else, treats the surrounding ecology with the same cold rational calculation used on the factory workers. Corktown therefore functions as a fictional prototype of a wholly modernist environment where technology and rational progress have alienated people from the organic world. From the organic world. So people are alienated from real life because of the obsession with the science and technology. So this term paper will be very important. So read the book, and then you write a term paper and submit. Write a term paper to demonstrate how modernist thought results to environmental degradation in Dickens' hard times. In Dickens, that will be your term paper. And these are things that will now evaluate you. For us, we don't sit for cards. You will just do these activities. I will choose like this one. I will mark it. I will choose a few presentations and term papers, and then I will rate you out of 40. And then you'll sit for the exam out of 100 and convert to 60. So that's how it will be. Hakuna mambo ya cut. There's no sitting for cuts here. Then William Blake. William Blake was a great poet. He was also a Christian, and he wrote a lot about environmental concerns. And in one of his poems, like this one here, one of you can read it. Let me have Sheila. Can you read this stanza? And then for Felix, you read the stanza too. Then we will interpret it. These are the two authors I want us to focus on in this particular session on modernism and environmental concerns. Sheila, can you read this stanza? Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, can you read?
Okay. That's London by William Blake. I wandered through each charted street, near where the charted Thames does flow, remarking every face I meet, marks of weakness, marks of woe.
Yeah, so you can see this, thank you, is the first stanza. And the poem is called London. So the persona is walking through London, and this is what he can see. And he wandered through each chartered street, yeah, and look at how the poem is written. I think this is a legion where you do what? You omit certain letters for rhythm. You just omit, yeah. You omit certain letters for rhythm. So I wandered through each chartered street near where the chartered Thames does flow. Yeah, Thames is a river which flows through London, um, and mark and mark in every face I meet marks of weakness, marks of woe. So you can see people are not happy with what is happening in London. That is the picture of William Blake. Is the picture of William Blake. Felix, read this stanza too.
Yes, so in every cry of every man, in every infant cry of fear, in every voice, in every band, the mind of
The
Manacles
mind
I
for
hear.
the Manacles, I hear. So people are not happy. Children are crying. People are sad. Why? Sheila, read this one. Sheila, where are you? Read. How the chimney sweepers cry. Every blackening church appalls, and the hapless soldier's sigh runs in blood down palace walls. Next stanza. Sheila, are you with us?
Can you hear me, sir?
Read this stanza.
Can you hear me?
But most through. Can you see?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
But most through midnight streets I hear. Felix, Felix, read this one. I think Sheila is having.
Yes, but most through midnight streets I hear how the youthful harlot stars blast the newborn infant's fear and blight the place, the marriage I hear.
The marriage has.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So modernism has come with very many effects. Yeah. You see, of course, the Thames is polluted. And the pollution has caused a lot of sicknesses, and the sickness is both on the environment and on the culture. People are seeing new cultures which were not there before. For example, there's the mention of prostitution, yeah, which was not there before. Yeah. So the question of exploitation of women is also it's going hand in hand with the exploitation of the natural environment. And that's why there is, in fact, a branch of eco-criticism called ecofeminism. Yeah, that the way women are exploited is also the same way the natural environment is exploited, and that's why eco-literatures are a part and parcel of postmodernism, just like feminism is part of postmodernism. So the question of harlotry has come in, and it never used to be there, and that's the same way. That's the same way that the natural environment is being exploited. The Thames River has been affected by pollution. Yeah, it is not the way it was. So we look for other poems by William Blake. There's one called Tiger. He used to write a lot about the ecological environment. In fact, he's called a romantic poet. Romanticism was there are people who are obsessed with the praise for Mother Nature, praise for Mother Nature, and William Blake was one of them. So there's another one called Tiger. You should go and look for the poem by William Blake called Tiger. Read it and see how he's concerned about the ecological features, animals and the plants and the ecosystem. Yeah. So this poem offers the most direct ecological and social critique. The environment is depicted as being legally owned and restricted. The River Thames is chartered, and the streets are chartered, signifying that even fundamental natural elements are subject to human property laws. You see, so humanity is now controlling everything. Yeah, everything. And you have like nowadays, of course, we want to protect grass, but we are even told not to step in grass. But this is something that Blake does not like. Yeah? Why should you control everything? Yeah, including the natural elements. So Blake uses auditory image, the cry of the chimney sweeper and the hallowed scars to show how physical pollution and moral decay are intertwined. Are intertwined. That's what I've just told you. Yeah, the way the environment is being exploited is the same way. Yeah, is the same way you know the culture is being polluted, and through this the writer is trying to say that we cannot alienate ourselves from the ecological environment, because if we have no respect for the ecological environment, it simply means that we will also not respect our culture, because I think here the whole question of holism is coming in now, and let us be all rounded. Yeah, be rational, but also know some religion, and also respect the natural environment. And these are elements that are very, very superior in the African cosmology, in the African mode of thought. Yeah, so when you go there, you also see I've analyzed some songs on the portal. I've also shown you how some songs in the African setting are able to employ the concept of holism, the concept of holism. So that's what I had to share today about the ecological environment, and what and modernism. So basically, what is your take home? What are you taking home from what we have shared today? Um, Let me hear some summaries from you. Sheila, what have you taken home? What have you taken home from today's lesson? Sheila, what are you taking home? Of course, you'll go online and read and do all the activities there. Felix, maybe you can go first. What are you taking home?
So what I'm talking about today is that number one, the thing of modernism. That is when we were having the scientific revolution and the human decided like there was focus in the science aspect, development of road industries, uh, and this uh, led to the neglect of the environment, where the environment was that is the mother nature was seen as the whole focus went to the human. That is in terms of development of infrastructure, while at the expense of the environment. That was during the modernism period. And it is this time that we are finding writers just like we talked of Charles from Oliver Twist using the hard kind. In fact, it is today that I've understood the hard. I have a soft. I remember I'd seen it somewhere, but back then I used to believe that Charles Dickens, Oliver Twist. I used to wonder like how will I even understand the work of Oliver Twist? And what was he even talking about? But now today, apart from the main objective of the session, there's a way in which again you help me to understand Oliver Twist. expression is hard time. The hard time here is describing a moment when everybody was obsessed with science, scientific revolution, and the people forgot about even literature. People forgot about the environment, and people are obsessed with the development and infrastructure and industry. So there comes in the title hard times. So the focus is how then again I'm also learned the type of work. So maybe when we're doing our focus is going to be now. We're looking at when we look at the African work. We're looking at how in Africa we look at the literary aspect, even the proverbs we use in Africa. There's a way in which we are bringing in the aspect of human beings and the natural environment, including the animals we have got in the forest, through our proverbs, through our songs, through our poems, and through our novels. So that is in summary what I'm taking home. Do I have to sit down again and read to get a deeper understand properly what we talked today?
Yeah, thank you. Your network is not very strong today, but I've also I've tried to listen and heard what you have said. Yeah, so hard times. Charles Dickens. He wrote it in 1854. That's why yesterday we were talking about the universality and timelessness in literature. 1854, but the novel is very relevant to eco-literatures. Yes, Sheila, what is your take home? You're having a problem with your microphone. Sheila says having a problem with, yeah. Okay, so Felix, maybe any other, we are working on your, I asked the register today and they said the letters are still being produced. That is your letter and Ruth's letter. So we will follow up so that you'll be able to get your number and get onto the portal. But I'll share this slide so that you also start doing the activities and keep reading the books. Read the books. Like now, hard times, you write a term paper on it. So read at least 3/4 of the book, or you can read the whole of it if you can. So think if there is no other concern, I wish to end there. And thank you for attending. Tukaze kabisa. I'm happy for the two of you. Tujikaze kabisa. Ruth, I don't know what is happening, but we cannot force someone. You people are adults. You know why you have come to school. We only encourage you. So once we encourage you, the two of you, naona sasa mmeshika vizuri, tuendelee hivyo. Let's just be optimistic. Tukaze. There's somebody else who is coming. Akikuja tutaendelea tu. Yeah. So let me wish you well. Have a great evening. And thank you for attending. Santeni.